The national lockdown has certainly not been without severe consequences for business and people in general. Non-essential parts of the economy have been shut down, and this has seen major losses in income and people's livelihoods. The construction sector is pleading to be allowed to return to work, claiming that this lockdown will result in thousands of jobs being lost, particularly in the next 18 months. For more on this, I'm now joined via Skype by Webster Mfebe, who's the CEO of the South African Forum of Civil Engineering Contractors at SABC. Thanks so much indeed for joining us, Mr. Mfebe. It is a challenge, I guess, not just for the construction sector, but many sectors across the country caught up in this lockdown. But the health minister, the president tells us this is something we must do. But do you think we need to go back to work?
Well, yes, for the construction industry, for the simple reason that it is a readily compliant industry in terms of the protective requirements required in respect of COVID. As you might be aware, we are already strictly regulated in terms of the Occupational Health and Safety Act. And in fact, even if you look at the international perspective, countries like Australia in Europe have allowed the construction industry to continue because it is regarded as too important to the economy and employs a lot of people at entry levels. The same situation as ours. New Zealand as well has declared its construction industry as an essential service. And we are pleading to the government to reopen the industry because this is the second biggest employer of masses of people after agriculture.
How many jobs do you think might be lost as a result of this lockdown?
We have been making the forecast in collaboration with the construction market research intelligence company Industry Insight, SABC, and we publish together from their research and quarterly state of the industry report. We estimate that between 68,000 and 108,000 jobs in the coming 18 months will be lost. And a lot of businesses, small to medium, will close, and it will result in a lot of poverty because this industry also supports subcontractors and also suppliers, as the industry is predicated on three pillars: engineers who design, contractors who build, and suppliers who supply to the industry. The whole value chain will be affected, and which is why we are making this appeal, and we can be able to comply with the stringent requirements as required by the World Health Organization and our authorities.
All right. So, and I think you've mentioned an important point there where you say that there's a whole supply chain involved in the construction industry. So whilst you can be compliant on the actual sites themselves, you have no control of what happens before that in the supply chain. So how do you manage that?
Well, there are proposals that are being put forward. You must understand that in the first place, the Occupational Health and Safety Act applies to all employers. But construction by its very nature, because it is dangerous, that is why it is even a commonplace to use that protective gear. And also, not only the emphasis should be placed on the whole value chain, the missing part in all this are the labor organization, the union organization, those employees who will go to the sites and contract coronavirus, who die because of injuries and occupational diseases on sites. We have made sure that we've taken them on board. And what we are doing is supported by labor. And also, it would be interesting, Peter, to know that we've also contacted an organization called FRED, Forum for Radical Economic Transformation, which has business forums under its arm, and they have committed themselves to assist the process and work with us to ensure that should the government open the sites, they will make sure that there is no disruption taking place in any site in South Africa. And we've done that working together with them successfully. And to me, that is the biggest milestone that has been achieved. Labor is on board, and even those we consider to be to bring a solution to the whole problem, which is the business forums. We do not see them as a problem, but we see them as a solution as they have committed themselves.
All right, we're running out of time, but perhaps if you could just help us. Were you given an opportunity to make representations to the authorities before the lockdown, and did that fall on deaf ears, or is this just something that caught you by surprise?
No, we are listened to by government. There is a structure which is a special purpose vehicle to process all the economic sector proposals, which is called PPGI, Public-Private Growth Initiatives. We've been working through that structure, and it has been effective. We've made our submissions through that structure. We have submitted our compliance plan should the sector be allowed to go back. So the government is listening. Even as early as 17th of February, we met with the president, who expressed grave concern about the decline of the construction industry. And the Minister of Trade and Industry even said there's a need for the development of the master plan for the sector. The government is taking this seriously, and I'm sure the president has been on the media recently re-emphasizing his previous statements that infrastructure development is important. We need to go back to work towards the attainment of an investment of 30% of the GDP by 2030. So already government takes this sector seriously, but with hindsight, we should have pleaded strongly that in the first place it should have been regarded as an essential service, but nothing is not redeemable at this stage, and we expect the government to respond positively to the pleas that we've made to it.
All right, Mr. Mfebe, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks so much indeed for giving us some clarity on the concerns that the construction sector has and the potential number of jobs that could be lost. He says 68,000 to 108,000 jobs could be lost in the next 18 months if the construction sector isn't allowed to go back to work. And these are representations that they're making to the authorities, hoping that they'll see a relaxation to that in the near future.